I now call this meeting of the Cranston City Council to order. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please turn off their cell phones. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilman Farina?
Present.
Councilman Stichels? Councilman Box?
Here.
Councilman Gerald Ortega?
Present.
Councilman Lucido?
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas?
Here.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Present.
Council Vice President Santa Maria?
Present.
Council President Day?
Here, present. Is there a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved. Second.
Motion made in second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilman Farina?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels? Councilman Box?
Yes.
Councilman Gerald Ortega?
Yes.
Councilman Lucido?
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Council Vice President Santa Maria?
Yes.
Council President Day?
Yes. Will everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public acknowledgements and commendations. I'll ask Mayor Fung to please step forward and give out two different accommodations. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Council President. First of all, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and welcome the members of the Cranston High School East Thunderbolt Marching Band and the Emerald Encore Color Guard that is here in the audience under the direction of Mr. Colazzi and all the other people that help Mr. Colazzi, most importantly, the family members of all of the individuals that are here tonight. It certainly is a very big honor to have them represent our great city of Cranston and Cranston High School East, and doing what they have achieved once again, earning the title of New England State's Group 2 Open Champions in the competition that they really put forth all their best efforts is something that's significant and something that the city of Cranston carries with much pride. So on behalf of the city of Cranston at this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Colazzi to present to him this citation in recognition of this distinguished accomplishment and offer him our sincerest congratulations and very best wishes. And next, I'd like to also take a moment on behalf of the city to recognize a dedicated City of Cranston employee for a number of years, someone who I've also got to know personally, Ms. Darlene Griffin. Darlene has worked within the city for 18 dedicated years, making a strong commitment to the students of the Cranston Public School System. And on behalf of the city, I would like to, first of all, thank you so much for giving of your time and attention to help all of our students, and congratulate you on your retirement and present this citation to you, thanking you for all that you've done for our students in Cranston. So congratulations. Thank you, Council President.
Council Santa Maria?
Thank you, Council President. While Darlene is up here, Arthur, could you come forward also? Arthur Jordan from... Be it all known that the Cranston City Council hereby issues the citation to Darlene A. Griffin on the occasion of her retirement after 23 years of service to the Cranston School Department as a bus driver and also serving as union steward, representing the bus drivers for the school department and recording secretary for Laborers Local 1322. The entire council extends its sincerest congratulations and very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses their hope for your continued success as well as good health and good fortune. So I'd like to present this to you on behalf of the council.
On behalf of the Laborers International Union, Darlene has served as secretary for that Councilman said. She's represented our bus drivers here in the city, and has been our recording secretary for Laborers International as well. Her this flag for dedication, and we love you, Darlene.
Now Darlene Griffith can officially retire to Edgewood Beach. Council Vice President Santa Maria.
Thank you, Council President. If Mark could please come forward. Mark is going to help me out with the citations for the people that did the actual work, the kids. I'm going to say your name. Mark will present it to you on behalf of the council. I'll just read it real quick because it's very long. This is a citation to the Cranston High School East Thunderbolt Band and Emerald Encore in recognition of successfully defending their U.S. Band's Division II Open New England Championship, placing first in their 2015 show, How to Survive a Zombie Apocalypse, how to survive a Cranston City Council meeting, and winning award for Best Music, finishing third place in the New England Scholastic Band Association New England Marching Band Championship. This entire council extends its sincerest congratulations and very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses its hope for all of their continued health, good health, and good fortune. You ready? Adrian Catayena.
Someone here.
Bailey Carroll. Benjamin Cruz. No. Joshua DeLand. Jacob McLean. Chelsea Asari. Oh, this name sounds familiar. Molly Botts. Would you like to accept this citation on behalf of your... I guess last year did it for her. She's not back this year. Crosby Rivera. Keenan Dunleavy. Patrick Wynn. Talia Parenti. Roland Hansen. Stephen Kiev. Peter Vanini. Kelvin Jimenez. Giovanni Jimenez. Jonathan Penta. Joshua Nelson. Timothy Tongvale. Kevin Aldana. Justin Cruz. Cole Araby. Jason Jimenez. Jessica Wong. Jacob Nelson. Hannah Van Bell. Shavana Yee. Moises Velasquez. No. Jody Huang. Troy Santapadre. Jeremiah Corse. Thomas Yaki. Jenna Barbarisi. Joseph Scungio. Catalina Cortez. John Ray. Darian Denaro. Cody Kong. Taylor Rainho. Bianca Duran. Haley Calderera. Sebastian Borgia. Paloma Borgia. Kaylee Fusco. Tom, you want to give this to your daughter? I guess not. Dominic Fusco III. Timothy Kiev. Bernadette Linsangin. Patrick McGuire. Daniel Norridge. And last but not least, Sienna Racal. I would like, first of all, Mark, if you could say a few words. This is the second year in a row. We'll be going for a three-peat next year.
We're going to go for First of all, I'd like to thank Councilman Santamaria and the Cranston City Council and Mayor Alan Fung for this recognition of our terrific kids. This band really went above and beyond our expectations. Greg Arsenault, my co-director, Roxanne Gustafson, who is Director of Emerald Encore. We were so pleased with how hard these kids worked and really exceeded expectations. We're very proud of their accomplishments, and we're hoping that we continue on this stride that we got going right now. So thank you once again for the recognition. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome, Vice President Santa Maria. On behalf of the entire City Council, once again, you guys did a great job. Thank you very much. You make your city proud of you, you make your parents proud of you, and most importantly, you should be proud of yourselves. So congratulations once again. And I'm going to take a 5-minute break in case any one of you want to leave. If you don't, just stay seated. 5-minute recess. Now call this council meeting to order. Public hearings. Any member of the public would like to speak on any docketed item, please come forward, give your name and address for the record. You have 4 minutes.
Fix your mic.
That's better. Roland Kutu, 27 Lee Street, Cranston. I noticed on the docket we have the item about the water thing. I have an in-ground pool, and I noticed it's from November to March. I'd like to know what the status is between March and April when I would open it, or September to November when I would close it. I try to pump it out as much as I can, but depending on the weather and whatever, what is the, what word to say for it, what is the ordinance pertaining to things like that?
It's a get out of jail free card until the spring.
I can hear you.
This isn't a debate session, so.
Oh, okay, that's the thing I have, is that's the issue I have with it, is that, you know, we try to pump it out, I'm pumping it out now, but there's always going to be some sort of water in it in that month and a half time frame. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak on any docketed item?
My name is Peter Pola. I'm the Director of Planning for the City of Cranston, and I'm here for the All Hazard Mitigation Plan, and we did this at the Ordinance Committee. So once again, rather than doing a detailed presentation, should the council have any questions when you discuss this, I am here to answer any questions that they may have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. LaPola.
Good evening, Douglas Doe, Chair of the Cranston Conservation Commission. We met earlier this evening and voted to recommend approval of the proposed city ordinance 11-15-3, the performance standards solar power as approved by the ordinance committee. These are basically common sense proposals. We hope they pass unanimously. On a personal note, I noticed Councilman Aceto is going to be talking about illegal dumping on Hope Road, Leighton Knight Road, and Burlingame Road. I hope you add Lippert Ave to that list. We're right next to it in the neighborhood. In the last 18 years, I found propane tanks, tires, mattresses. One day, somebody dumped the top of a fiberglass boat that they'd cut off. Some people dump their leaf bags, which continually amazes me. I mean, they go out to Lowe's, they buy the bags, they go home, they fill them up, put them in a truck, drive to my street, and they just put the bags up the side of the truck and go home. They can't even bother to dump them out in the woods and take the bags with them and save themselves some money so they have to buy them again. But whatever you can do to stop illegal dumping and help clean it up, we're much appreciated. I would know the DPW is very quick to take action whenever I call them or email them. They go right out and clean it up, so it's very thankful for them. But thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Richard Tomlins, 400 Farmington Avenue. I'd like to say a Merry Christmas to everyone, but I gave up my annual Christmas dinner at the Aurora Club to be here tonight, and now I see Mr. Stikos isn't here, so I don't see there's going to be any discussion on the finance from his point of view, and also the compilation ordinance for the police. Apparently, we're going to be punting again. Also, it's on the agenda that under claims, Josephson is listed under claims against the city. I don't know if that'll be discussed tonight. But a couple of remarks on this. It's well to look at history a little bit on this. Going back quite a while ago, not only me, but several people tried to cajole, wrote letters, and asked that a public meeting be heard by this legislative body in the East Auditorium, using your subpoena powers, and have everybody that's named in that report that was made by the state troopers under oath. If they didn't show up, that would tell you something. If they took the fifth, it would have told you something. If they talked, it would have told you something. So the only thing we're left with now is all those, and I have that booklet, which I paid $27 for, thank you, for the report. But nobody in that report has had an opportunity under oath to sit down and challenge what's in that. So what are we left with? You're left with a whole bunch of papers that's got things in there that the state troopers are making reference to. Specifically tonight, if Mr. Steiko was here, in Mr. Josephson's case, in the ordinance that Mr. Steiko's put on to try to solve that problem. I understand his ordinance. I think it's, I would compliment him in trying to put it through, but I also understand where the patrolmen are coming from, and I also understand where the police department is coming from. Whatever happens, it's going to cost us more money. There's no question about that. If we did approve another sergeant, and then we went ahead and did approve an extra policeman for the patrols, that's something I think should be considered too. My biggest problem, besides the money, I think it goes beyond the money issue, is the patrolman situation. We have 90 men and women that are covering the city 24/7. Every minute of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year. That's not a lot, considering what's going on in the city, in the state, and in this country. And I think all of you are pretty well aware of it. Mr. Comey, the director of the FBI, has said that there's every single state, obviously including Rhode Island, where they've got investigations going on about people that may want to do us harm. So that means our police department is very much in touch with the FBI, Homeland Security, state police, every other organization that has anything to do to fight this. So this is not a time to reduce the department, that's for sure. I just hope we can get together on this thing and get settled. I hate to say, anything that goes on too long is always a problem. And it's not just since this ordinance was introduced. This goes way, way back, right? And that's the problem. When you let something go on this long, you end up to where we are tonight, with no decision being made on the ordinance, probably no discussion on the ordinance, and again, we're left with a situation with the suit by Mr. Josephson, the claims that he is making, which is part of this supposedly report or agenda tonight, which probably once again won't be discussed. All I want to say in closing is that it's about time that we took hold of this, looked into that report, made a decision, used the power that this legislative body has, which I haven't seen, particularly on something that is so dramatic as what this whole report is. And I don't have to go into the millions of dollars it's already cost us and continuing to cost us. And those that might be guilty, if you will, quote unquote, are now going off into the sunset with some nice pensions. So I implore you to get a hold of this. Look at it though. You're left with this, in my opinion. You're left with what is the best thing to secure this city? That should be the major consideration. I thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on any docketed item? Hearing none, I now close the public hearing section of this meeting. There are no resolutions this evening. Report of committees. Are there any report of committees? Public Works Committee, Chairman Lucido.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance -11-504, ordinance and amendment of Title 13, Chapter 4, Code of the City of Cranston entitled Water Service Systems, sponsored by Councilman Favecchio. This matter came up in front of the regularly scheduled Public Works Committee, and a positive endorsement was made by the committee.
Motion been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion made and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Finn.
Yes.
Councilman Fox.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Council President, a resolution instituting the proceedings for abandonment of a portion of Kensington Road came in front of the committee this month with a positive recommendation, so the committee recommends approval.
Motion approved.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Finn.
Yes.
Councilman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Moving on to the Ordinance Committee, Chairman Arquero.
Thank you, Council President. First on the agenda, 8-15-02, Ordinance Amendment of Title 10 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Handicap and Disabled Parking Space Permits, sponsored by Councilman Stichels.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on the motion? Council Vice President Santa Maria.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the chairman of the committee, I was late. I'm not on this committee. I didn't get the testimony on this. What was the vote? Was there any dissenting votes as far as?
I believe this passed unanimously, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, this is just going to be on a street-by-street basis, basically?
I think the person has to have a handicap parking permit, then they would apply to the city to have a space in front of their home. But it's not exclusive to that person. It's anyone in that area can use that parking space.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair, I guess to the administration, I know that there was a negative report on this, not because of the spirit of it, but because of some issues with, there's no fiscal impact. I notice no fiscal impact statement with this. Is that correct? We don't know what it's going to cost, and also whether or not this would still keep us in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Mr. President, it's very difficult to judge the fiscal impact without knowing how many applications we'll get for these signs. So what I can tell the council is that, yes, there is a cost in terms of manpower and materials that go into installing these signs. We also have a detailed report from our administration that details the concerns of the traffic engineer with the inability of many of the city streets because of their dimensions to comply with ADA requirements for handicap parking spaces. Certainly is a question that is raised regarding passing an ordinance that would authorize these parking spaces when they are not in compliance with the recommendations.
One other question also through the chair, I guess to Mr. Solicitor Rawson, would this isn't going to guarantee that the people that live there that have a parking permit are going to be able to use the space in front of their house, is it? I mean, anyone with a permit, handicap plate.
Yes, I would
use
assume it would
right?
just be like a commercial venue. It's there for anyone that has the proper tag on their car, correct? And of course, overnight parking, I assume it would have to be moved. It could not stay overnight, things like that.
It would not be allowed to stay overnight?
Correct.
Do you see any potential for any, ACLU litigation over, not complying with ADA? Or?
Yeah, I think it's every block that might have it, so I don't know if there's an equal protection argument that if there's only 4 spots per block in a certain neighborhood, Is 25% going to be earmarked for handicap versus 75? That's a good question. I think the main concern, though, is on a tight street. If you're going to have to make a space, it might be impossible to make that space. So I think people have to realize when they apply, nothing's certain. If it's not going to fit under the ADA code, there will be no space there. So I just don't want people to be the false impression that just because they have a tag, they get the space. And it's not their space either.
Is there any restriction that it's subject to ADA compliance?
I think there's an argument to be made that anytime you're doing a handicap-type area on a public street, that you are subject to the Federal American Disabilities Act, yes.
Thank you.
Because there's also an issue with the wheelchair curbing. We've had that. Remember that when you make curbing, you have to have the wheelchair rut. So,
Thank you.
Councilman Aceto.
Through the chair to the administration, I don't recall if we had the recommendation of the administration, the traffic safety engineer, at the committee meeting. In light of that, if that's the case, can you tell me when they made the decision, the negative recommendation?
Through the chair?
Yes.
If I may, the staff report provided by the Bureau of Traffic Safety was dated October 13th, 2015. It had been continued subsequent to receiving this report. We did have the report. It had been submitted as of the last two meetings.
Okay, so we had that report at the hearing?
Yes.
This is the current hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Councilman Farina.
Thank you, Council President. I did have some questions on this ordinance. I was late to the ordinance committee meeting, so I could not ask them to the sponsor. As the sponsor is not here, I don't know if the administration can answer them for me, but I'll give it a shot. The main question I have, I like the intent of the ordinance. I believe it's intentioned well. The only fear I have is that putting spots on streets that either can't accommodate them or potentially, if there's a street that has 3 handicapped people on it, the way it's written, you can only have 1 space per block. I think it limits what it can and can't do. I like the intent. I just had some questions for the councilman on the ordinance and with the negative endorsement of the Traffic Commission. I also wanted to get some more information from the Traffic Safety Administrator on it, i.e. emergency vehicle access, normal questions that I would ask the administration if they think there would be difficulty with emergency vehicles. I don't know if the administration can answer those for me tonight, because the traffic person's not here and neither is the sponsor of the legislation. And the other question I had was if someone wants to put a space in front of their house and they can't, does it go in front of a neighbor's house? It's just, I have a lot of questions on this and how it works and procedurally how it works. Who'll be enforcing it if people park in the handicap parking space illegally? I just have a few questions. I think the intent is really good. I like the ordinance a lot, but there are just some procedural questions I kind of have. And unfortunately, with the sponsor not here, it's going to be difficult to answer them effectively.
Councilman Santa Maria.
Thank you, Council President. I want to add one question to Councilman Farina's request. Is there an appeal process? If hypothetically a person is denied, I was reading through it rather quickly, and I didn't see an appeal process. If it's a flat denial, if they reapply and they get denied, is there an appeal process after the first denial? I don't know if that should go to Attorney Rawson or not. I don't see one in here, Chris.
I don't think there is one, so I'm not sure. I guess it's just going to be hard and fast, short of maybe filing some kind of action.
So either flat denial or approval.
Right. I think it's much like when the state issues its tags, right? If you're either accepted or denied. I don't think there's really an appeal process, correct? So, no, I would guess...
All right, let me ask another question.
Yeah.
Legally, does there need to be an appeal process?
No, I think that the city has a right if they want to provide this ordinance. I don't think they have to have an appeal process.
Thank you, Council President.
Councilman Lucido, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to suggest if that's the case, and for the members who kind of do like this ordinance and would like to get more information or whatever, whoever made the motion to approve or withdraw it, and you could commit it back into committee. Then we'd get all the answers, and you could sit down and do whatever you needed to do to work everything out, along with the appeal process. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions concerning this? My only comments on this would be that this seems to work very well in Providence. They have handicap parking. But it can't work in Cranston, and I didn't realize the streets in Providence were so much wider than the streets in Cranston. The other thing, too, is one of the attorneys here mentioned concerns with the ACLU. Well, the ACLU's been on our case now for a long time. If we can't...
Not everything.
If we can't stand up to the ACLU, maybe we should let them run the city and we just take orders. So, I do agree that maybe it should go back to committee, just for clarification. And I probably would vote that way if somebody makes the motion.
I'll withdraw my second. I don't know who made the motion.
I'll make a motion to recommit
Somebody made the motion for the main passage. I withdraw my second.
Who made the main motion?
Rosalba, who made the main motion?
I withdraw the vote of approval.
And I'll make a motion to recommit, Council President.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on the recommitment? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda, 11-15-01, ordinance and approving Cranston 2015 multi-hazard mitigation strategy, hazard mitigation plan sponsored by the mayor. Tim, entertain a motion.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Next, 11-15-03, ordinance and amendment of Chapter 17.24 of the Code of the City of Cranston 2005 entitled Zoning Performance Standards, Solar Power, sponsored by Councilman Stichels.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Next is a resolution proposing amendment to Section 3.19 of the Cranston Home Rule Charter, directing the Secretary of State to place on the ballot following as a referendum question, non-interference in administrative matters.
Motion to recommit back to committee.
Second.
Motion been made and second to recommit. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No. Yes.
Yes. Motion fails on a tie vote.
So we have to vote on it.
It's a tie.
Motion fails. But we lost discussion on the bill, discussion on the resolution.
All right, Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, Council President Lanny. The reason why I introduced this is I feel the Home Rule Charter is in error pertaining to the relationship between council members and department directors, and also council members are at risk when dealing with...
Councilman Arquette, hold on for a second. City clerk said there's no motion.
Excuse me? Oh, motion to approve.
Motion's been made to approve. Is there a second? There's a second.
Discussion.
Under discussion, Councilman Arquette.
And the council persons are in risk when they deal with directors because they can be accused of giving a director an order. If so, that councilman risks being terminated and they can be removed. And I think that's very draconian and very unfair when there should be separate but equal branches of government. And there's a process to remove council members, but in the city charter, there's no impeachment process to remove the mayor if the mayor is guilty of any malfeasance. So I feel that's very unequal. Also, I think this administration has not been forthright and forthcoming with numerous attempts to gain any access of information or transcripts. So that's another reason why I needed to introduce this legislation, because this administration is very obstinate, stonewalling when addressing it for necessary information. And as a council person, we cannot pester directors because then we're at risk. So I think the charter really needs to be addressed and cleaned up, and this is paramount for passage. Thank you, Council President.
Any other discussion? Councilman Farina.
Thank you, Council President Lanny. I'll say the same thing I said in the committee meeting. I don't think we as councilmen should vote to change or put on the ballot to change our own statutes of what our penalty should be until we know what a firm penalty is. I know we talk about censure. I look at this legislation, putting it on the ballot basically would say, you know, yesterday I would lose my job, but tomorrow I miss a meeting with pay. I think the pendulum needs to be less intense, but not that much less intense. And I do agree with my colleague that there is no impeachment process for the mayor in our current city charter. I would actually partner with him to write one if such a process is needed. So I think that is more in the vein of what he wants, or based on his comments, that he would like to have the same kind of process for the mayor that exists for the council. I feel that every time I've spoken to a director, I've never ordered them, I've asked them questions, and if they ever needed to tell me that it was something that was above my purview, they would send me to the mayor's office. I've never had a problem with them, so I don't see this being an issue. I do understand that the penalty doesn't fit the crime, so if we could come up with a penalty, I could see voting for it, but with no penalty and just censorship, I can't endorse it.
Councilman Santa Maria.
Thank you, Council President. That's the reason I asked to recommit, because I had mentioned this, I'm not on the committee again, but I had mentioned that censure is just too general a term. What kind of censure would it be? I would have trouble voting for this only because it says that member shall be subject to censure. What's the censure going to be? And the voters, if they're going to vote on it, they would probably want to know it's just too general a term for me. That's the reason I wanted to recommit. I think that needs to be maybe a little bit more specific.
We're beyond the recommit now. The bill is either for passage or non-passage.
I'm just saying it's my issue to recommit was because of that one word. I just think it's too general. Of course, the other wording is, to me, killing a mosquito with a sledgehammer. But I just think the censure is just a little too general for me. So that's why I urge you guys to put this back in committee so we can bang it around some more. Thank you.
Councilman Boggs.
Thank you, Council President. To me, the ordinance or the part of the charter we're trying to change doesn't prohibit someone on the council from asking questions. It prohibits someone from giving a direct order to someone in the city, whether it's a director or whatever else. So to me, I think there is separation of powers in government, and we shouldn't be giving direct orders to directors that work for the mayor. And to me, to get five of your peers to vote to throw you off the city council, I think that's got to be something pretty serious. I mean, I think all of us have consciences. I think all of us know that it would have to be a pretty serious penalty for one of us to vote someone off the city council. So to me, this is the nuclear option. I think that would never get used. And to me, I think it's a waste of our time and the voters' time to have this on the ballot. And I will not be voting in favor of it. Thank you.
Councilman Vecchio.
Thank you, Council President. I'll have to agree with Councilman Botts. I mean, I think first of all, this has nothing to do with the mayor. It has to do with the council. But imagine having 9 people giving orders to, or constantly asking questions of the directors. They're going to be confused, and that's why you have the separation of powers, and the administration, it handles those things. Those are day-to-day operations. We usually get answers to all our questions fairly reasonably. That we've had a few constituent affairs directors and a few directors of administration, but I think they've been pretty much forthcoming in getting us answers when we need them. And I think in a pinch, you've been able to call directors. I don't think it's impossible to get information from some of the directors, but I think it would really be a messy form of government if the 9 of us were involved in administration, because that's not our function. So I'm not in favor of this in its present form.
Councilman Papalaskis.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I don't support this in its current form either. I don't think the directors should be pressured into a situation where they think they have to answer to 10 mayors or 10 chief executives, so I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Councilman Aceto.
Yes, through the chair to Councilman Farina and Councilman Santa Maria, do you gentlemen, you spoke, do you have maybe amendments that would change this? Either of you? To offer?
Well, can I answer that kind of indirectly? Because I was going to bring up
I think they have to answer his question, and then we can go on to yours. Councilman Farina?
Well, I'm asking Councilman Farina and Councilman Santa Maria, Mr. President, they
And that's
kind of were saying about...
And that's what I'm waiting for, an answer, or yes or no.
Okay, so my question again.
Councilman Santa Maria, I'm asking Farina and Arquette to answer Councilman Aceto's question.
I thought it was me.
It was Councilman Farina and Councilman Santa Maria, Mr. President. I'm sorry.
All right, continue.
I have several, but there are too many to try to make. I'd have to sit down, we'd have to sit down and try to rewrite this. That's why I think sending it back to committee doesn't really affect it, because as it's written, even in the just changing some words around, I still couldn't support it.
Councilman Santa Maria.
Council President, I'd just like to bring up a hypothetical. The way it's written now, I can understand why Councilman Arquette has. If I'm driving down Budlong Road and I see a sinkhole, all right, and it's forming rather quickly, and it's a safety issue, and I call the police or I call the department head, the way this is written, I've gone around the mayor's office on an issue that needed to be called to the department head immediately. The way this is written now, I could lose my seat because I didn't call the mayor's office. Now, if this happens in the dead of night, that's my issue. I can understand it's a draconian measure. That's why I think we should put it back into committee and make the wording a little more. The way it's written now, if I were to call in on a safety issue in the city, I could possibly lose my seat. That's the way it's written now.
Councilman Farina.
As a follow-up, as I understand the legislation, as it's currently written, if I called the director and I told him about the issue, I would not be subject to any penalty in regard to this ordinance. If I called that director and ordered him to come to that spot at that moment with his men and fill that hole, then I would be responsible under that ordinance. Now, in your case, Councilman Santa Maria, I agree with you. It's a safety issue. Things happen. I do think that the punishment is too draconian. I would love to see something that if you had to give an order, you would be suspended without pay for a number of meetings, and on your second offense, then the draconian punishment. Because, again, there needs to be separation of powers, and needs to be penalties if we violate that.
Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, Council President. A couple of items. First of all, I've heard a lot of rhetoric this evening. All this does is just change the punishment. This doesn't allow a councilman to give a director orders. That's still in place and enforced. This just changes the punishment from removal to whatever this body agrees upon. That's the first thing I have to say. The second thing is, of course, Councilman Box, Councilman Favecchio, Councilman Papalopoulos, and others, you won't mention, can have access to the mayor's office because they share the same party. And they go well beyond calling, giving orders, and whatever. It's those individuals that are not in the same party that the mayor that this policy gets invoked. And we all know that. And that's why all the Republicans are going to vote against it, and the Democrats are going to go for it. We know that. This doesn't change anything. All this does is say removal of office is too severe. That's all it says. It does not state that a councilman can give an order to a director. That's still enforced. So why aren't the Republicans willing to vote for this minor change? There's got to be a reason. Thank you.
I'm going to interrupt you. Let's not do party politics.
No, I'm not doing
We all understand it exists. It's awful close to Christmas. Can't we be nice to each other? I don't want any coal in my stocking, and I'm sure you don't want any coal in your stockings either. So let's try to get through this evening in a Christmas-like spirit and move on. Councilman Farina, I hope you'll be merry and jolly.
I'm a large man. I try to always be merry and jolly. I have one question for the administration. When was this put in the charter? Does anyone know what year this was enacted? I'm assuming it's,
When the charter was written,
1960.
So in 1960 something.
So since 1960 something, has this ever been utilized to remove a councilman from office?
The answer is no.
The answer is no. So if I were to make the penalty for robbing a bank a day off with pay, a lot of people would rob banks. But right now the penalty for robbing a bank is a lot of years in prison. I understand the intent. It shouldn't be. We get thrown off the council by a vote of majority, but we can't just leave the word censure and send it anywhere. So I'm against it in this form. And if we want to rewrite it, I will rethink it and work with you guys, but, I'm the fourth no, so I'm going to assume I'm some quasi-crazy person. But I call directors, ask them questions, they do what I ask. I don't think it's because I'm a Democrat or because I just do the right thing, so it has nothing to do with party politics.
Councilman Botts.
Thank you, Council President. I believe this was introduced last year, and it failed in a bipartisan vote of 4-2. So I'm not sure what changed from last year to this year that caused party politics to become involved.
Let's not be a Grinch.
Try not to. I didn't throw the first shot. And also, I didn't realize the mayor only ran in wards 2, 5, and 6. I believe he has to appeal to everyone in the city. So why would he want to penalize half the city with supposed shenanigans involved requests from councilmen? Again, I've never given a direct order to anyone. I've always emailed, whether it was Mr. Barone or Mr. Lopez or anyone else in the city, asking if these things can be done. And I've never had an issue doing that. I can't understand why this is being introduced again. Could it be that something's coming around the corner in 2016 and I don't know, but this failed last year and it's being reintroduced this year, and I would, again, urge my colleagues to vote against it. Thank you.
Yeah, the thing that came around the corner was called the State Police Report. Councilman Aceto.
You said what I was going to say, Mr. President.
I have one quick thing.
Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. Hopefully you'll enjoy this, but I have a suggestion through the chair to the sponsor. How about we have rules, council rules. How about changing some of the rules, definition of censure, what it really means, maybe some definitions of penalties or whatever. We could possibly do that. We don't need to put it on the ballot for the next year. We could do that through our own rules so that there's some clear understanding of what those rules are, the rules that govern our own conduct.
Through the chair to Mr. Councilman Vecchio to answer his suggestion, that would be a moot because the charter would supersede any ordinance that we pass. So this being in the charter, that removal of office would still supersede anything that we do.
I'm not so sure, but where does, aren't you worried about what censure is and what the definitions? Aren't you worried about the definitions?
I think that was Councilman Senior. My idea was we first apply or straighten the charter, fix the charter so it's not draconian. Then we can come back and we can set some type of rule for any impropriety or malfeasance that happens. We can do that. But the charter needs to be fixed before you're putting the cart before the horse. You want to pass an ordinance for censure, what censure is, but this will supersede that. So you have to fix this first, and then we all have a meeting of the minds, and we decide what the punishment should be. I think that should be the process.
Oh, no hands up. Oh, thank you. Clerk, please take the roll.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No. Yes.
Oh, jeez. Yes.
Motion fails on the tie vote.
It still fails. Yeah.
Motion fails on a tie vote. Moving on.
I can introduce you again. Next item, Council President, failed in committee, so I don't know why it's on the agenda. Is there a reason why it's on the agenda?
Through the chair,
Yes.
the council rules require that it be reported out to the council, but no action is to be taken, which is why it is stated following the ordinance, no action to be taken.
Okay, so we can move on to finance at this point?
Yeah, this is informational only. No action will be taken on this. So now we move on to the Finance Committee.
It's me again.
Chair.
First item, annual city fiscal audit, fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015, Markham LLP.
Is there a motion?
Have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the audit.
Second, right?
Motion made and second. Any discussion on the audit? All right. Okay. You're on deck.
Okay. Good evening, Council President and council members. You should have some documents in front of you. I'll just go over briefly what they are and kind of organize the agenda. First of all, you should have a draft copy of the financial statements themselves. That would be the thick packet. You do not have the footnotes because they're still in draft form, although the document itself is in draft form. And we're working on it all the time. But the financial statement numbers for all of your funds shouldn't change. We're at that point in the audit where the numbers are pretty solid, and we don't expect any further changes or adjustments. The one thing I'll just point out, and my name is Jim Prescott, by the way. I'm a partner at Markham. And Erica Alogri here, she runs the job for us at both the school and the city. So she is going to go through our outline that we have. So let me just go back to the beginning. You have a financial statement. You have a communication to you, the council, required communication. We'll go over that briefly later. You have a draft of the management letter comments, I believe. Is that correct? Yes. And you have this outline that Eric is going to walk us through and go over. The other thing I'll just point out is what we do. We audit the financials, obviously. And the only document in here that belongs to us, that we take authorship, is our audit opinion. And you should have a draft of the audit opinion in here The important thing about the audit opinion you should know is that we have reached the conclusion that all the financial statements in here are fairly stated. The opinion itself is about 3 pages long. It includes what our responsibility is, what the city's responsibility is, and then at the end of the document, we give our opinion, which is what would be phrased as a clean opinion. So with that, I think I'll have Erica just walk through our outline, and we'll take questions. I don't know if it's appropriate to take questions afterwards or during, however you want to handle it.
Councilman Aceto?
Through the chair, if I may, I just have a quick question. On paragraph 2 of the manager letter, it starts off and it says, "Our consideration of internal sound was for the limited purpose described in the preceding paragraph and was not designed," I repeat, not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. I just don't understand that, in that you give us this management letter and you state a number of deficiencies that I know we have to work on, but you don't identify everything. You're an auditor, that sentence doesn't make sense to me,
Yeah, I don't blame you. We're not hired to do an examination of internal controls or discover material.
So you're not doing a
weaknesses.
forensic audit?
We're not that, yes. Or we're not doing an audit of internal controls. That's a kind of a different type of compliance audit. What we're hired to do is offer an opinion about the financial statements, whether or not they're fairly stated. And that's what GAAP requires. So these things that come to our attention, we are required to inform you about them if we find issues, because we're out here, we're finding things, and if they are issues that should be brought to your attention, even though that's not our primary job, that's the result of the management letter.
Right, and one more follow-up question, Mr. President, if I may. It's kind of, why so late? Why are we doing this the week before Christmas? And we didn't get the management letter, and I don't know what the procedure is. We got the management letter pretty late. I know I got an email on my phone, so I had to run home, print it after work real quick, try to read it as best I could, then come here and talk about it.
Really, all I could say is this is a typical time when we're wrapping things up. I think we do it almost every year in this week, just before Christmas. The report itself is actually not due until December 31st. And none of us like to bump up against that deadline, but it's just the way it's done, kind of. I will say this in general terms, and we can discuss other reasons why there may be delays. But first of all, I'd say it's about the same time. We've done it every year to bring it to you. I know it's a little compressed and we're all kind of concentrating on other things for the holidays, but that has been typical. But this year in particular, there's a new accounting pronouncement, a new GASB.
Right.
And it's required the state to give us information back and forth. And a lot of communities have been delayed. Not that that's the sole reason for Cranston to be here now, but that's a contributing factor.
Councilman Santa Maria?
Thank you, Council President. Could you explain a little about not the problems, but the issues you had with the grants in the audit about the departments and their reporting, et cetera? And then I would like to follow that up with another question.
Would you like us to go through our outline and then raise some of these issues and then perhaps answer specific things? Is that?
Councilor Santa Maria, I think maybe you should do that presentation first.
I'll withdraw my question, and as long as I can ask it later on.
Oh, yeah, you can ask later on.
I don't mind answering it.
We'll keep Mr. Prescott here till midnight. I have no problem with that. Mr. Strom, you want to make a comment?
Yes, I do. To Councilman Aceto, normally our management letter, because it entails the single audit as well, we don't usually generate a management letter until the end of January or the beginning of February. The audit has been presented and has to be presented by the end of December, but this is the first time since I've been here, going on almost 7 years, that we ever had a management letter, even in a draft format, this early.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erica Lowry. So you guys have that PowerPoint slide presentation in front of you. If you want to just flip over to page 2. And I can answer your questions on the management comments as we go through this because that's part of the presentation. Again, Jim went over the audit report. Again, that's labeled on pages 9 and 11. That would be, you guys have an unmodified opinion, which is considered a clean opinion. The governmental balance sheet for the city is labeled page 30. So if you look at that in your draft, just some significant items you'll see on that is your tax receivable and your deferred revenue. Again, those are some big numbers because you guys send your bills out before June 30th. So again, the receivables booked as well as the deferred revenue. The intergovernmental receivables, amounts due from the state, which are ultimately collected after year end. The due to from the school, you'll see that's 1.3 million, so you'll see the in and the out on the city side and on the school. A couple things to note there. The city forgave the last payment on the deficit reduction plan, so you'll see that transfer when we look at the statement of revenues and expenditures. And the city also transferred the last payment on the repayment to the school department in the amount of approximately $313,000 this year. So for the city governmental funds balance sheet, the fund balance, you'll notice there's a few different categories. So, you know, a few years back, GASB 54 made the reclassification changes, and there's different criteria for them to be in the different categories. Basically, for the city side, they're non-spendable is about $200,000. That relates to some deposits that are on hand with healthcare. So with United Healthcare, Blue Cross. So those are considered non-spendable fund balance. The restricted fund balance is approximately $279,000. So when you're looking at, this is the general fund as well as a few other funds that have to roll in for GAAP purposes. So it's not strictly just the general fund when you think budgetary. So there are some restricted funds in there as well. And as well as committed funds, there's some committed funds that's about $2 million related to, you have a budget stabilization fund, and a few other fire and police grants and things like that that go into these funds. So the unassigned of approximately $20 million as of 6/30/15, that would be the balance that remains not assigned to any specific purpose. And again, that's a snapshot in time, that's as of 6/30. So if you move over to the governmental funds balance sheet for the school, that's that second column on page 30. The due from other funds is really from the internal service fund. So you'll see that big amount due from your school internal service fund. Something good to note is your deficit was reduced on the school. You're showing positive fund balance of approximately $5 million. Non-spendable relates mainly to the receivable that you have with the internal service fund. They owe the general fund $3.9 million. Committed is related to current year encumbrances on the school. And then the remaining is considered restricted based on the governmental definition because it classifies as a special revenue fund of the city. So therefore, any remaining funds have to be put into that category. But just one thing to note, I know you see the positive balance, but note that the school committee has already designated about $967,000 in the last 2 years to go to capital projects. So again, that brings their unassigned to like a cumulative negative $355 when you look at it that way. If you flip to page 3, we'll go over the governmental funds. This is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. And that's labeled page 32 right now, and the page numbers will change. The city general fund, you're showing a net decrease in fund balance of about $1.7 million. A couple things to note. The transfer happened, so you'll see that going out of the city, moving into the school on the bottom of the page. So that was $313,000, as well as that 1260 rounded to 13. So if you take those two things out and you look at just their operating decrease, it's about $155,000. On the school department, you have a net increase of fund balance of $3.6 million. Again, you see the funds coming in from the city of the 313 and the 1260, the 1,000,002. So if you take those two into account, it's an operating increase of about $2 million. So that's on a governmental funds balance sheet and profit and loss statement. So if you look to page 4, these are just things to be aware of. You have some other funds in the city financials. So pages 35 and 37, you have your sewer fund. And just noted a few things to point out of how it performed and what you have as a net position there. Your Public Facilities Management Foundation, you have one more payment, which I think was already made on that debt. So that entity will have to look to rolling up after next year. One thing, and I did make a mistake, just so you know. That charter school line really should be moved down to the school lunch, so that decrease in net position is related to public facilities. So school lunch and charter school are grouped together on your financials, and they had a net position of about $1 million together. And they had an increase in net position of $138,000 for 6/30/15. And I know this is an important page here, 93 and 94. These are your budget to actuals. Am I going too quick?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Do you guys have any questions on any of that before we move into the budget to actual? I know I went through it quick.
With order the page number. No.
Is it good?
110. Yeah, I don't think we have page 93 in our packet.
You know, has a budgetary basis? It would look,
I think we go to 110, and if you stop backtracking, I don't think 93 is in there. You got it? All right.
do you have it? Okay, I believe it went out in that original copy for the audit committee.
All right, I'll just make a note. I got it. Yeah, it's right before the blank page.
It's labeled RSI 1?
Yep, got it.
Okay. So the first page is the city's budget to actual. So again, you're looking at a decrease of approximately $2 million. So when you take out the transfers that went over to the school, and there was about $426,000 that was transferred in reserve for relating to middle school sports, they actually show an increase in fund balance of about $16,000 when you look at an operational level. The school had an increase of approximately $2.8 million, and then again, transfers from the city accounted for about $1.6 million.
So on page 93, Mr. President, if I may, on the bottom, it says fund balance July 1st, 2014, $2,350,391, and fund balance June 30th, 2015, it shows $20 million. So that's a decrease of about $2 million, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when we're looking at that fund balance, that's not the rainy day fund, is it? What everybody calls that? Or that's
So, and just remember, that's budgetary basis, and there's some differences. So that's strictly just your general fund and how that performs. And that's just, cash inflows and outflows.
Okay.
So again, of that 20 million, there are some other categories that are reserved for.
Okay.
And that you'll see that on that page we went through before.
Okay.
And just to clarify, not to be a wise guy, but GAP doesn't have a rainy day
That's
fund.
correct, I know that.
All right.
But it doesn't look good that we're down 2 million in 1 year. That's my, observation.
Yeah, and that's just the thing to point out. A lot of that have to do with the transfers and what was forgiven on the mayor side. You won't see those next year. The next page, page 5, just kind of identifies some things that you'll see change on the government-wide statements, which you don't have the government-wide statements right now because that's the full accrual accounting. We're going through the final conversion entries, which means, we put all the liabilities on the books and things like that, which are all in your footnotes and have all been disclosed. So the big change Jim was referring to before is GASB 68. That's where the pension came in, where you have to book all the liabilities, whether it be for your police and fire pension or your municipal employees retirement system, which is all on the state level, and your employee retirement system, which is teachers. That's all at the state level. So that liability all gets allocated to Cranston and gets put on your balance sheet this year. And you also are involved in the teacher survivor benefit plan. So, I just noted on that page 5, those are some significant liabilities. And on the teacher survivor benefit, it went the other way. So you have a pension asset. So you'll see that go on as well. So those are some significant changes from last year. And it's ultimately due to the new GASB.
But in the past, those amounts have been disclosed in the footnotes. What's really changed is you have to bring it forward and actually make an accounting entry for the balance sheet.
And again, it's not on your fund statements. It's only for financial reporting. You never reported on your fund statements.
Councilman Lucido.
So as far as the state pension liability, where are those numbers coming from? The state?
Yeah, Dennis Hoyle worked with his team, and he worked with actuaries. They did their own testing, as well as we did some testing on it as well. And they developed the reports and came up with the entries for the school and the MERS plan.
So they're giving us a certified document that says, City of Cranston, teachers, firefighters, everybody else, whoever's in there, this is what your liability is. And this is what you have in your fund, so forth and so on.
Exactly.
So that's certified by somebody from the state.
They have actuaries work on the final numbers that actually sign off on.
Okay, and then that that number from the state becomes part of our audit?
Correct. The liability?
But somebody's putting their name to it at the state saying, hey, this is it, these are the right numbers, so later on in life, they can't come back and...
Yeah, and they're pulling information from you guys as well.
They're doing it for every community. This is a new requirement by government standards, auditing, accounting standards. And so they've been busy at the Auditor General's office coming up. And they have this information online.
Yeah, it's on the ERSRI website.
Yeah, you
which
can
is the
log on to it and
retirement
see.
state website. So anyone can access it, and you can pull all your reports down for Cranston.
Council President?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Now, this new GASB, so is this requiring us to book more liabilities than we did last year?
Well, just remember, this GASB wasn't effective last year, and you did not book a liability. It was footnote disclosure only.
Okay.
So you had RSI information, which is required supplementary information, that explained your obligation and what was due to the plans. But again, the liability was never required to be booked.
Right, and now it's all at 100% funding, so obviously we're putting more in. We're required to put more in than we ever did.
No.
No?
I don't think so. There's a required funding element, but bringing this liability onto the financial statements, and when we say financials, they're government-wide financials required by GASB. Then what most people focus on are not the government-wide statements. It's an effort of the GASB to present financial statements similar to commercial enterprises, so that all your liabilities appear on that balance sheet. But the fund statements, which are your budgeted numbers, the results of your passing tax bills in figuring out what your budget is, that is not really government-wide. That's what we call fund, F-U-N-D, fund statements. And those statements really haven't changed with this GASB. So there's no liability booked on those fund statements.
Okay. And one other question with regard to the $2 million that Councilman Aceto had mentioned. A lot of that, the transfer, the school transfers account for quite a bit of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the school got from the city $1,260,000 for the deficit reduction, and then also another $313,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Just one further point on related to those liabilities that are getting booked on government-wide. One might be concerned that this huge liability shows up, and it's happening for every municipality, every governmental unit out there, to make sure that the pension liabilities get booked and see people are on notice. But the rating agencies, because you've disclosed it in the footnotes in the past, and it's always been in your required supplemental information, they have already accounted for that in the past, despite the fact that it wasn't booked on the balance sheet.
Thank you.
It's important.
Councilman Aceto?
So just getting back to that, the fixed asset bookkeeping, you're basically telling us that our software package is non-existent and we should get a better record keeping to keep up with it? Is that what the recommendation is?
Yes.
We recommend the city centralize the tracking of capital assets. All departments should be reporting to one person, and that person should be reconciling their ledger of assets with the general ledger on a monthly basis.
Do you guys want to flip through the management letter? We can go through to that.
Yeah.
You want to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go through that now. The management comments. Okay. So I can explain each one. So your first one, just to break them down, there are material weaknesses here, and there are also significant deficiencies, and then there's some other comments that we just provided as like a value-added service. There were some different things we did this year just to help, provide you with some efficiencies. So basically, during our audit work for fixed assets, we were noticing that there's not a lot of communication between the different departments. When there's projects going on in one department, they may not be making it to the person that has the fixed asset Excel file that they're supposed to be maintaining, and then also talking with the person that has the general ledger, you know what I mean? So all those people have to be in communication. And again, all they're using is an Excel file. It's not an actual software. So it's really, data entry, and we need to have the correct information to put in that schedule.
Now, when you say departments, are you saying the city, Mr. Strom, and the school committee, or different people within the city? Can you?
No, it was between audit, I think Public Works, and then purchasing. So, there was a lot of stuff going on in the sewer department this year. That's where a lot of the adjustments came in. And a lot of it comes from Rhode Island Clean Water is financing a lot of that, so a lot of that is directly, paid by them. So that communication might not have made its way up to purchasing and who's maintaining the fixed asset schedules.
I'm still confused, Director. Can you help me out?
Excuse me, our purchasing director handles our fixed assets currently.
Okay.
He, unfortunately, he's the one that inherited it, let me put it that way. He may not be the best suit to do it, but at this point, because of our staffing, he has it. We've had some things regarding bonding, for instance, construction in progress, from the school, from sewer, from Public Works, that information and data has not been given him to book on a timely basis the fixed assets, certain projects. So with that, when the auditors came in, and what they do is they reconcile and balance to the general ledger, they were missing some things that had to be found in the process, which now I believe Erica reconciles, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to issue
So-
it.
And plus the fact that there was some people that weren't full-time this year because of illness. So there are a number of reasons why it wasn't maintained, okay? It's up to date as much as it should have been. Going forward, we intend to have this done on a more regular and monthly basis, so we won't have the rigmarole at the end of the fiscal year to try to reconcile.
So this is a function that basically we should be doing monthly.
Yes. And it wasn't.
Does that answer everyone's question on that one?
Yep, for now.
Okay. So the next one is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So I'm sure you're all aware, you all get federal money in the school department as well as the city. The school department has a dedicated person that tracks all the federal awards during the year and the expenditures that are made for a fiscal year. The city decentralizes that, and it's done by each individual department. Really, the city needs to centralize that so that they can track where they are with their federal awards and make sure they're maintaining compliance. Because again, you're required by all these federal funds that come in, you're required by a certain federal number, identification number, that identifies those federal funds, and you're supposed to comply with those compliance requirements. So you should have someone tracking the amount of expenditures, because at the end of the year, you're required to provide us with that list. And again, we have to select from there which ones we will test. And it's not to say they're not doing it. It is very decentralized, and I think they need more of a central person there just to summarize everything at the end of the year and make sure that it's properly recorded.
And we're using Excel spreadsheets to track that also, or is it something different?
Like the police use a different thing. Fire uses, I think they might use Excel schedules. CDBG uses different systems. So it depends on the department. But as of right now, we get it in emails from different departments.
Okay, Bob, and again, that gets to you once a month, correct? In most cases?
No, that's not something that I get monthly, no.
You don't?
No. What the issue is that there is so many different branches of city government, like she mentioned, fire, police, CDBG, school. They all have major federal monies. The issue that I see is that when the monies are spent, they need to be reconciled on a either monthly or quarterly basis so that what is spent and what we receive balances out. And at the end of the year, that's why when they do their single audit, the single audit isn't done till the end of January because it takes approximately a month after our regular audit to get everything reconciled. And that's okay by the Auditor General. I don't want you to think we're late, but that's the reason why, when I mentioned earlier about the management letter, that it remains open because it entails the single audit and the federal programs as well. So that's something that, I know the school has a grant accountant, not a grant writer, a grant accountant. The city, more than, probably should have a grant accountant to reconcile all these various grants. And as you know, more and more, we're trying to get grants for the city by each department. So currently, we don't have one. We're doing it internally with staff that I have, and until budgetary season, we're going to have to do it, with the help that we currently have. But we need to be more diligent and try to have this reconciled more currently than what we're doing now. It does get resolved and it gets balanced, but it's a lot of rigmarole at the end of the fiscal year.
Councilman Sanbria.
Thank you, Council President. The reason I have my antenna up with grants is because we've hired a grant writer the city council hired a grant writer to find grants, and the other departments that don't have their own grant writers, not the police, not the public works and recreation. When I see something like that under significant deficiencies, I get a little worried.
Yeah.
With the reporting, because I know our grant writer, and Bob can probably back me up on this. Bob, my grant writer talks with Bob on a pretty much a weekly basis. So is there an issue with our grant writer, or is this the other departments? Because
So this is the city
I'm
as a
just
whole.
I'm just concerned that, you know, we just received a nice grant to put the stadium project. We've received a couple of other grants. I just want to make sure that the significant deficiencies aren't happening with our grant writer who we've hired.
It's not specifically related to grant writing in general. It's really the record keeping and, you know, kind of summarize, talking to the different departments, you know, like police, it's not one person out there that does the tracking. There's 3 different captains that do the tracking. They have their own grants, you know. So it kind of needs to be centralized so the city as a whole knows what grants are going on, what are the expenditures as of a certain point in time, and also to maintain, like, to make sure we're up on the reimbursement and we're getting it timely. That's all done department-wise. But, you know, it would be nice that someone at the city is centralized, because at the school department it is centralized and they do have that final schedule at the end of the year. So that's really what we're looking for. Now, the federal grant compliance, that's a different question, so we can go over that. Does that answer your question on schedule of federal awards?
I just want to make sure that our grant writer, and I know he probably is because he talks with Bob on a regular basis, that he's, you know, that we're on the same page as far as that goes. When I see significant deficiencies and I see grants, you know, we depend on grants, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of money out there for us. So I don't know if maybe we could follow how Ken does it. Ken talks with Bob all the time as far as whatever he needs and out-of-pocket costs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe that is a good idea of getting someone centrally located in the city to field all those inquiries, because some of these grants are, you know, time-sensitive, and they're also, you have to dot your I's and cross your T's, and if you don't, you lose the grant, and yada, yada, yada. So, you know, I just want to make sure that when I saw this, it just kind of scared me a little bit. But you seem to be telling me that it just needs to be more centralized.
Yeah, because you're required at the end of a fiscal year to provide your total expenditures. You should have knowledge of what did the city spend in total? Was it $13 million? Was it $20 million? You know what I mean? Because then from there, we have to do our testing, and then we have to report out on compliance to say, you know, of these directed material grants that we selected, they were in compliance or they weren't in compliance. So from that standpoint, it is a significant issue because we don't know if the people from police have a different grant out there, and we just don't know that they're doing grants, you know? I mean, I only know,
There
like...
should be an alarm, maybe, before it gets onto your lap, that something's going on.
It's just hard because there's so many people with their hands in it. It'd be nice that someone has to centralize it and just make sure they're in communication with them on a monthly basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Farina.
Thank you. To dumb it down a little, you're recommending we have a grant accountant or administrator, potentially however many hours needed, centralize and organize the process of debits and credits for all the grants.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilman Aceto.
So what happens if in the middle of this budget cycle, again, we happen to get a grant that's not in the budget? That's not a bad thing, obviously, but you're just worried, or the auditors are worried that, again, like Councilman Farina just said, it's not in one spot. Everybody's doing their own thing.
Yeah, because you need that final number.
Okay.
Because that drives everything related to testing.
Okay.
In other audits that you do you run across this problem with other communities, or this unique to Cranston?
On the school side, they usually have someone.
On the city side?
On the city side, a lot of it is decentralized. I deal with another community, and they do have someone in the city that kind of summarizes it all at year end. I wouldn't say they're doing it on a monthly basis. I think it's more of a year-end process, communicating with the departments.
All right, and was this in last year's management report also?
Yes.
It was. So this administration's been in office for approximately 7 years, and they haven't corrected the problem. If you've reported this problem in the past, my question to Mr. Strom is why hasn't it been corrected?
This is just a recommendation, it's not a problem.
Sounds like a problem to me.
Well, it's not a problem because it gets reconciled at the end of the fiscal year. What it is, it's a recommendation because of staffing purposes. We don't have someone that can centralize everything. We never did, and we still reconcile at the end of every fiscal year. It's just a more difficult process to do so.
Council President, can I just follow up on that real quick?
Yeah, we find out.
Bob, can we move up the reporting date? If you find, it sounds like you're finding it out at the end of the year.
No, it's not finding it out at the end of the year. What it is, it's taking us a longer period of time for the reconciliation because of all these different grants that are being written by all different departments, and trying to get that information and trying to get the disbursements and revenues that come in for each grant reconciled. That's what's taken the time. And right now, from a staffing standpoint, we have a very lean accounting staff at City Hall.
All right, so my basic concern is, are we in danger of losing any grants because of this
No.
significant deficiency, or whatever you want to call it?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Aceto?
Yes. Council President Leahy just asked you if this showed up on the last audit. When you come in and do an audit, do you review the year's audit before and see what the manager recommendations were? And do you speak to those if they weren't done someplace in this audit so that we wouldn't miss this, or not really? You just check and that's that?
So part of our process when we come in for planning is we do take that management letter that was issued and sit with Robert and Mike and go through them and see if they have corrected the issue. We like to see how they do, just to make sure that,
Is that mentioned in the audit anyplace?
Not in the audit report, no.
No, it's not.
You would just see that from last year's letter to this year's letter, it would be cleared.
But it's not, so you don't speak to the fact that these are the discrepancies we found last year, you've solved those, these are the new discrepancies we found this year.
No, they're
Solve
not
those.
issued in the formal letter.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that one?
You can move on.
Erica, one thing, when we do go over the management letter, there are items from the prior year that have been eliminated because they have been implemented. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I want that to be noted.
Okay. Yeah, there were some eliminated this year. Like if you looked at last year's letter, there were some corrected. The next one here, again, it says on the side, still pending the results of A133 testing. The federal grant compliance, so last year, if you looked at the single audit report, there were some significant findings on the fire grant, and then there was a small finding on CDBG. So again, those are high-risk programs this year, so we are selecting them for testing. So again, that comment is staying in here as the draft management letter, and until that A133 testing is complete, we can't remove it. Do you have any questions on that one? Okay. The next section is significant deficiencies. So again, the general ledger, the maintenance of the general ledger. So you know you have the fund statements, which we went through. And then there's also the conversion entries that bring the fund statements to full accrual accounting. And there's a lot of communities that don't do those entries, so it's not, you aren't the only ones. But just to be aware that they are Cranston's financials, so those are some material entries that have to happen. So basically the comment talks about the fact that the city doesn't have a system where they have the ledgers that they can give you, like for fixed assets and for long-term debt and things like that to make the entry from, but they don't maintain a general ledger on full accrual accounting, is what that comment is basically saying. The tax collections comment, this was on there last year as well, and it's really, we wanted to see a report come out of tax collections that kind of does the breakdown of the deposit, that shows what came in for cash, what came in for checks. With the older system, it wasn't able to be produced. Going forward, as in July, I think Mike said, they have implemented that with the new software, or the upgrade of the software. So that he will be putting in the management response that they have corrected that. Reporting of reimbursable grants. So this is one thing, so when a grant comes in, so say for police overtime, if you get grant money, you know, the expense is recorded. When those funds come back in and reimburse that, it's always net against the expense, which is fine when you're looking at it from a budgetary standpoint because you want to offset those expenses, but we really should be reporting the revenue and then the expenses so you know how much federal money you're getting in. So again, so it's not buried in the expenses. Bank reconciliation procedures, I'm pretty sure everyone's aware that there was staffing changes this year, and there were bank reconciliations when we came in as of April 2015 that hadn't been done. They had brought the bank reconciliation process up to June 30th in order to complete the June financials, and they are gonna, in the first of the year, they're gonna get some training for the new staff there and get that in order and get the bank reconciliations on track. Do you guys have any questions there?
I do. On the bank reconciliations, they haven't been reconciled on a timely basis, am I correct?
Yeah, so as when we came in, they weren't reconciled from April on.
Okay. So they got reconciled once you arrived, am I correct?
Correct.
All right, so meanwhile, from April on, now when did you arrive?
October.
So April to October, there was no reconciliation?
No.
April, May,
Well,
June,
it was
July,
only for a
August,
few
September.
funds, and there were, most of the funds were, so sewer fund and general fund were not.
So that's 7 months without a reconciliation, in the way I see it, am I correct?
Correct.
All right. I can remember back before my time on the council, under a previous mayor, when there was a bank deposit that was left on the floor because everybody was busy doing something else, and it disappeared, and someone walked off with $6,000 in city cash, reconciliation money, and nobody was ever caught. And the simple fact, there's no reconciliation in 7 months. I don't care if it's a small department or a big department or the entire city. It's a problem, and I consider it a serious problem. Now, you can say we're using part-time help, we don't know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, they shouldn't be there. And if you need people to know what they're doing, pay a little bit more money. I spent 34 years as an auditor. If something like that happened under my watch, I'd be out the door. Now, Mr. Strong can make his excuses. Your turn, please.
Yeah, it's not an excuse. What happened was that we had a change of staff in April. We didn't have a full-time accountant to take that person's place till August because we have to go through all this rigmarole with the civil service and unions and things of that nature. However, one thing I want to bring it to someone's attention that there were daily cash reconciliations from April to October. What wasn't done was the monthly bank reconciliation. But every day, there was a daily cash bank reconciliation that tied out to the general ledger.
Is that correct?
We only look for the month end. I believe they were doing a daily cash report. We didn't take that report and tie it out, but I believe there was a daily report done.
A daily report is the same as a daily cash reconciliation or not?
I'm not, is it a reconciliation to the general ledger? Yes. We didn't test any of those, but.
Oh, so it hasn't been tested, so, okay.
The reconciliations on a monthly basis are made with the general ledger
bank.
To the bank. So Robert doesn't get, well, maybe you get daily reconciliations from the bank, daily balances from the bank. I guess you can report online, but we're looking at the typical bank statement and trying to reconcile it back to the general ledger.
So there's a problem there, we can admit that.
Well, the problem, and I think Robert would admit to it, is that they need to be done. You need to have.
That's right, so part of the job wasn't done. Okay, continue.
Okay. So the next part of it is just other comments, some value added. We had our team from Boston come down and work with your IT personnel, just to kind of provide some feedback and some ways you could improve in the IT department. No significant crazy deficiencies, but just some things to improve on. And you'll notice those are under information technology. A lot of it relates to HR, which you don't have an HR department. So a lot of it related to not getting timely information, between IT and HR. So not having an HR department would pose an issue. There was some findings on domain administrators, on having accounts that were active that should have been disabled when they were no longer in use. And you'll notice there are some management responses already in here that Bill has responded to. Password configurations, they're saying it doesn't meet the requirements of a password parameter. The 17.
I have a simple question, Council President.
Yes, Councilman Farina.
So you're saying we should have an HR department or director in HR to facilitate some of these HR type things?
A community our size should, yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Aceto.
Yeah, I believe we do have a HR director. It's Director Coop currently, isn't it, or Director Cordy?
No. I think it's Director Coop.
Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. No, just to get the record straight, no, the council voted against hiring, the administration proposed hiring an HR person, and it was voted against by the council. They didn't feel we needed someone. No, there's one person, I believe, or 1.5 people who are not directors, and we have the Director of Administration filling in part-time to do it. But I was not one of the ones that voted against that.
Council President, I'd just like to set the record straight. There are only 2 council persons here who voted not to remove the Human Service Director. That's Councilman Sanmaria and myself. So you voted to remove Sue Bello.
There was another reason for that. You know that.
Good point, Mr. Arquette.
I don't know how germane that is to the discussion, but
Thank you for clarifying that.
Being followed around.
To clarify something, it's not the young lady's job to tell us whether we need a human resources director or not. She's giving us an audit.
This is just a recommendation.
It's a recommendation.
Whoa.
Whoa, okay.
So when it was procedurally wrong, that was her telling us what we needed, and there were problems. Now that she's telling us there's a problem in the HR department, it's a recommendation. The door doesn't swing both ways,
Councilman Farina, Director Strom used those terms.
The door doesn't swing both ways.
Okay. Director Strom I have a lot of respect for. He said they were recommendations.
And I asked her if
was
she,
just
and
echoing.
excuse me, I asked her if she recommended we need an HR department, a director, and she said yes. So I asked what her recommendation was.
Wait a minute, I'm going to ask internal order of the writing to answer that question.
Recommendation.
All by Mr. Strom.
I've been out of public accounting for quite a while, but maybe directing it to Mr. Prescott. Is Markham advising and give recommendations on, have you been hired for management consulting, organizational consulting, to say whether or not the city of Cranston should have certain department heads or not?
No.
If the answer is no, how could that statement be said by your organization that is saying that you are saying the city should have a personnel director?
It was, well, these are incidental comments, right? These are not, there's an addition to our audit, and this was just a...
But she just stated the city should have a personnel director. What happened? It's a political issue, frankly. I say political in a good way. There's difference of opinions in the city. There's a history that the administration differs from the city council in general, of not having the necessity of having a personnel director. I think you're stepping into something you should not. That's my recommendation.
Okay, well taken, and we're not putting that kind of recommendation in writing. It's not part of it.
Your recommendation is on the record now.
And on tape and on video. Mr. Strom, you have a few comments?
Yeah, I just want to say, the whole management letter is recommendations. It's nothing that's really affected the performance of the audit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Can we read back the minutes?
One other quick.
Councilman Vivek.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I mean, this was just issued, was it not, to Markham? This management report was just issued recently, today, right? And normally, when you do those, an administration or a bank or any organization answers the management recommendations and comments. So sometimes there's a response, and then there may be some changes, there may not, but it's not a one-sided affair, correct?
The letter is in draft form and it hasn't been issued yet.
Right.
And it will not be issued till the compliance audit is done.
Okay, but that's the way it's
So yes, it does
known.
go through management and they do provide responses at the school level and the city level.
Right. And they haven't had a chance to do that yet, and that's what I think Mr. Strom was getting to.
Robert did receive a draft of this. We went over
Correct,
it.
but he usually issues you a written response, I would assume.
Yes, and he will.
Right. Premature.
Okay, this is a draft management letter. This is what you gave the audit committee a while back, am I correct?
The draft management letter we were requested to bring it to this meeting because it wasn't at the audit committee meeting. We talked about the points.
All right. When will the final management letter be completed?
Upon completion of the A133 report, which is expected to be done end of January.
So, the end of January, we'll get the final management letter. And that will give us more details on how the city's being run as far as the accounting part of it. Am I correct?
Correct. I think all these comments will remain and there'll be management responses at.
All right. Do you anticipate any additional comments?
As of right now, I don't, because we do have the federal grant compliance comment in there. Pending the results of that testing, if that comes out clean, that comment may be removed.
Okay. Councilman Farina?
Thank you, Council President. Do you see any reason why we should not approve this audit tonight and move it forward to the Auditor General's office?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Councilman Aceto?
Yeah, I don't know if you're just going to cover the IT backups information.
Okay, well, the backups, the finding was sampled backup dates did not complete successfully. Additionally, there are no off-site replications or off-site tape backups.
Director,
So
are
the
we working to solve that problem?
Councilman, you speaking to me?
Yes. I mean, that's kind of a critical
Yeah.
thing.
I had a discussion actually.
Bipartisan, if you will.
I had a discussion today actually with our IT director, and he's working on a plan and a process to do this off-site. And he's looking into a package that we have that he's looking to buy to have this accomplished.
Okay.
Okay, so it is in the works.
Okay.
And he's hoping to get this accomplished after the first of the year. In addition, I think there are some, I believe Maria Walls mentioned to me, there are some departments that do have backups, okay? But right now, the main software package is not being backed up as frequently as it should be, and it should be done off-site. And that's what we're working on.
Okay. With regards to this backup stuff, so did I read someplace here that there's a situation where if you took a business date on receipts, as far as what we got for checks and monies that day in the tax department, we should be able to get some sort of tape backup or computer backup
Are you talking about the tax collection?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, that was corrected in July.
okay,
They're now able to produce a report
okay.
that gives you that information.
Okay, but like information like that also is something that should be stored in a couple of places, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? You can continue on.
All right, the next comment is on the fraud prevention program. These have been in here the past few years. Again, it's just good business practice to have, whether it be a fraud hotline or somewhere where someone can drop information if they know about it, so that it can get corrected relating to fraudulent activities. So there's just some recommendations on how to do that. And then again, the last one is the same thing, reporting on mechanisms of fraud. We recommend that management consider the establishment and communication of reporting mechanisms for fraud, abuse, and misconduct, internal reporting channels, employee surveys, and intranet, different email procedures they could follow, and using a hotline. Those are just some anonymous tips can be caught that way as well. So those are just general recommendations to help the city as a whole.
Any questions concerning fraud? No? I think that's...
Okay, the last thing that I am required to go over with you is you have another letter there that's related to the final communication with those charged with governance, and that's you. Just to communicate some of the things that happened during the audit, we'll just go over the bullet points. Again, just so you know, we completed the audit in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting standards, governmental accounting standards, and also the OMB Circular A133, which will be the compliance audit that you receive in January. Again, the bullet points down the page identify significant audit findings. That's just the title. It talks about accounting estimates. So just to note that in your financial statements, there are significant estimates, as there are in everyone's financial statements. They're different from entity to entity. Useful lives of fixed assets is a significant accounting estimate. The allowance for doubtful accounts. Your estimates of claims and judgments as of a point in time, any potential litigation, things like that. Those are definitely estimates. Your estimate of the net OPEB obligation. Again, actuaries calculate the figures to come up with that estimate. The estimate of a net pension liability, as we discussed before. There's a lot of people working on those numbers to come up with those estimates. Some significant disclosures, just to point out, there's going to be a significant amount of disclosures in there about retirement plans. Again, that's all about the GASB 68. There's probably about an additional 20 pages of disclosure just related to that. There's also significant disclosures on other post-employment benefit plans. So again, that's no change from the prior years. Those have always been in there, but just some significant disclosures to look out for. During the audit process, we did not have any significant difficulties in dealing with management. In the back of that letter, you'll see some significant adjustments that we're required to communicate to you. They were over materiality. Again, they fall largely on the sewer fund and capital assets, as we've discussed before. We didn't have any disagreements with management. Once we're final and ready to issue, we will obtain a management representation letter. We're not aware of any consultations that the city or the school department has made with any other accountants on the treatment of any situations. And there's no other matters that I need to note from the audit other than what we've already discussed. And just some other items to be aware of. There is required supplementary information in your financial statement. Again, we don't audit the required supplementary information. We don't express an opinion or provide any assurance on that required supplementary information. The supplementary information, which is some combining schedules that are in the back, limited procedures are applied to this information. noting that the information is appropriate and complete in relation to your financial statements as a whole. You also have some introductory and statistical sections that you have in there. Not in RSI, it's a separate section. We also do not audit this information and do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on that. And that was it. Do you guys have any questions on that communication letter?
Councilman Aceto.
I just have a procedural question. Primarily, I guess, maybe accruals in the month of June when perhaps we have monies owed to us and they belong to one fiscal year and we don't get them until the next fiscal year. How does that show up on the audit as? And on the other side, tax bills perhaps that get sent out in the middle of the month of June and people prepay those. They're paying them in one fiscal year, but they really need to be applied to another fiscal year. Were there any issues that, or are we doing the best we can do there?
So on the tax receivable side of it, you do send out your bills in June. So again, the receivable is recorded, and then you also have the deferred revenue. And any collections that come in on that are, again, booked to a liability holding account so that that can be pushed into the following year because it's cash collected for the following year. On the liability side of it, are you talking about accruals? So like if something comes in from a contractor or a vendor?
Right.
So again, that's all looked at as of a cutoff. So basically, if the service was provided, that liability will be recorded on the general fund or whatever fund it relates to.
Okay, one last question, Mr. Council President. So let me ask you this question. So if we have a recreation fund and we loan money from that recreation fund to another fund within the department, are we still carrying that as an asset? Is that still an asset?
Are you referring to like a due to, due from?
Right. So in other words, if you have one fund and you transfer money, let's say we had money in a reserve account and we lend it to the snow plowing account, which lends it to maybe another fund. Does that create, are those receivables on the books as assets or they're just offsetting adjustments someplace?
So if there was a true due to, due from, so if the recreation department was owed money as of 6/30, they would record that on the general fund as a due to, and it would be a due from on the other fund.
All right, so it's carried as an asset then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Strong?
Yeah, Councilman, it would be set up as a receivable if it was money owed to them.
Right, that's...
Okay, which is an asset.
Right.
The other thing is, I just want you to know on collections, we have what they call a 60-day rule. So we have July and August that we collect money that still pertains to the prior fiscal year as of June 30, okay?
Just a little point of clarification there, too. You're under governmental auditing standard, or the accounting standards, this modified accrual basis. It's not full accrual because of the significant taxes receivable. So that collections you made on prior years after 60 days are fully reserved. So you don't record that in income. That's a little twist to municipal accounting. It's different.
Well, I mean, if you had a case where somebody owed taxes for 5 years, didn't pay them, then finally paid them 5 years later, we're not carrying those accruals 5 year backs. They become part of...
Well, you are carrying them, and it's been reserved. It's just not brought into income. So when they pay, then you pull it out of the reserve and it goes to income.
Okay.
It actually, Councilman, it actually goes to, it's slotted into the prior years. It's like if you're saying they're paying 5 years, it would go back to, say, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Okay.
Oops.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Very informative. Did a good job.
You're welcome.
Just another point of clarification. We are wrapping this all up this week, and as you noted and may have noted in our opinion, it's dated December 30th. So everything we're planning to get out the door by December 30th. That is to the state, to the Auditor General, and that's what we're aiming for, and I don't expect to be any problems with that.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions? Councilman Arquette.
Not a question, general comment, Council President. I have a hard time supporting this when they're giving the council recommendation to hire a personnel director. They're not considering the monetary cost to the city, also the political game that has been played in the past. So there was a personnel director at one time. This council decided to remove that personnel director. Councilman Santa Maria and I did not support that, and the mayor did not veto what was passed by the council. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, okay.
There was a,
Is there a motion to accept?
I believe there was a motion and a second, but I'll move at this point if needed.
All right, there has been a motion to accept, and a second?
Second. Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Corino?
Yes.
Councilman Fox?
Yes.
No.
No.
Councilman Velazquez?
Yes.
Councilman Ricchio?
Yes.
Councilman Castaneda?
No.
Councilman Lang?
No. It's a tie vote. Oh.
Okay. So we're in non-compliance with state law.
Next item, Council President.
Moving on.
Next item is a resolution, next item is 8-15-03, ordinance amendment Title II, the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Police Department Composition, sponsored by Councilor Stichels.
Motion to approve.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and second. Is there a second? I'll second. Discussion?
Council Vice President?
Any discussion on this? Council Santa Maria.
Could we hear from Mr. Quinlan on this, please?
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Pat wants your opinion on something.
Councilman, could you repeat your question? I was
Just
talking.
asking your opinion on this ordinance because we have a claim against the city.
On Josephson?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm recommending you hold that or move that to the next committee meeting on that. Because I don't think we can debate it here. This is potential litigation. You've been briefed on the threat of litigation here. So I would suggest that you either move this over a month to a full council meeting or move it back to committee.
Councilman Botts?
Thank you, Council President. Through the Chair of the Administration, do we have any kind of memorandum of understanding yet with Officer Josephson?
We do not, Mr. President.
Thank you. I voiced my concern at the previous committee meeting when this was passed that we didn't have a memorandum of understanding then, and I didn't understand why this ordinance should be passed. And I still stand by that now, and I don't think this ordinance should be passed, and I will be voting against it. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to send this back to committee.
Motion to table.
We need to withdraw your motion. I withdraw my second. Now we do a new motion.
I'll entertain a motion to recommit for legal counsel.
Point of information, who made the motion to approve?
Second.
Point of information, who made the motion to approve?
Councilman Cito, and I seconded it.
I seconded it.
I did too.
That's okay.
Everybody withdraw their motions, and Councilman
Yes.
Santa Maria made a motion to recommit.
And I second that motion.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
No. No. Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. I'm sorry.
Is it time?
The tie.
The guys, 4-4.
Let's vote on it then.
Continue on resolution authorizing real estate abatements.
Wait, we have to,
It's gone, isn't it?
it's going.
Wait a minute.
Through the chair,
What's the vote, what was the final vote, Madam Clerk?
it was 4-4.
For a motion to recommit.
Yes, so
So
there's
it didn't
still been,
recommit- so it's
it's
still
not
on-
recommitted, so we still need some dispositive motion in some manner, either a motion approved, deny, or a table.
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion made to table, not debatable. Please take the roll.
Councilman Farino?
Yes.
Councilman Box?
Yes.
Councilman Marinello? No. Councilman Lucido?
No.
Councilman Voskis?
Yes.
Councilman Favicchio?
Yes.
Councilman Penisarino?
No.
Councilman Lane?
No.
Time motion, time.
Gridlock.
Councilor Santa Maria, you have a solution? to
Council
this?
President, we have an attorney voted on by the taxpayers, White Shire, who has just informed us and recommended that this goes back to committee. Now, the only attorney I know in this
think
room
we
right
need-
now is Councilman Favicchio.
I think we need the administration to advise the administration's people that this should go back to committee.
Through the chair, is there, we can do a motion to reconsider by either side, because it was a tie vote, to reconsider the recommitment.
Who's the administration attorney?
Councilor Vecchio?
Thank you, Council President. My concern with it is exactly what Mr. Quinlan said. This should not be in a
Through the
public
chair,
forum.
there's no motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Batz made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Going once.
I'll second it for discussion. Councilman Farina, lead off the discussion.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to table this motion because there is no horizon on when we will have a resolution to the matter. To vote on it every committee meeting and every city council meeting as we wait for this to get resolved does not make sense. Putting it on the table leaves it viable to be sitting there as needed. When a resolution is come up with, we can move it from the table and vote on it, and adjust it as needed and vote on it accordingly.
Any other, Councilman Aceto?
Councilman Farina, as you well know, if something remains on the table for 3 months or more, it dies. So if you would like to do that, maybe we can continue it, because we could continue in perpetuity. But if you table it, it dies in 3 months. That's fine.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Procedurally, you could table it twice, and on the third, you could then take it off the table and do a motion to continue to a specific date to avoid that.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. I think tabling it would also put some pressure on the other side, because there's no leverage. If we just keep continuing it, there's no end in sight. So maybe, maybe this would help the other side to make some decisions, because it's not, I don't believe no one's holding this up except perhaps the party that's looking for some.
Councilman Aceto.
To the administration and the solicitor, I know we're in a public forum, and I don't want to get into details of the litigation, but has there been any movement? If yes, great. If not, when can we expect movement?
Director might have some details on that.
Director? Are there any details?
Mr. President, I'll do the best I can to answer that question without violating the advice from our counsel, not to say a whole lot publicly. There has been communication. It has not gone well, and I suspect it will be a while before there's any movement on this. What I would say in response to the council president's advice to the administration earlier is that as currently drafted, I don't think the language of this ordinance can possibly achieve the goal. And if a member of the council at the appropriate time would like assistance in drafting a new ordinance to achieve that goal, once we have a date in mind when it might be useful, I'd be happy to assist with that.
We promised, all of us.
I'm going to call a 2-minute recess so we can put our collective heads together and bang them and see what we come up with. Council, please take your seats. Recess is over.
That's a joke.
Okay. Back to ordinance 8-15-03. Is there any motions on the floor?
Yes. We have a motion to approve by Councilman John Bart, seconded by yourself as Council President.
All right, there's been a motion to approve by Councilman Botts and seconded by myself. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Freeman. No. Councilman Bart.
No.
Councilman Jerry Martello.
No.
Councilman Lucido.
No.
Councilman Paplaskas.
No.
Councilman Rodriguez.
No.
Councilman President.
No.
Council President.
No.
You got another motion? Motion to reconsider.
We can, but I'm the part, because that was the priority.
Would you make the motion to reconsider?
Do you make a motion to reconsider?
Make a motion to reconsider.
Reconsider what Councilman Martello, recommitting?
I'd like to continue this for 3 months if we can. I think that's
It was already decided, wasn't it?
that's the reason. So I'll make my motion.
You're making a motion to continue for 3 months?
I'll make a motion to reconsider the vote first, Council President.
Oh, okay.
The prevailing side can do that.
All right, shall we make a motion to reconsider? And-
He's correct.
Okay, yeah,
He's right.
I need a second.
I'll second it for discussion. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Farino.
No.
Councilman Botts.
No.
Councilman Jerry Martello.
Yes.
Councilman Lucido.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
No.
Councilman Rodriguez.
No.
Council Vice President St. Rand.
Yes.
Council President Lane.
Yes.
Motion fails on a tie vote.
So it's gone.
Okay, next order of business, resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements.
Through the chair,
Yes.
there's still been no action on that ordinance. What,
What ordinance?
It failed.
It failed.
9-0.
It failed.
So-
8-0.
no, the motion to approve failed. Okay, all right, I'm sorry, disregard that.
And next is a resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Farino.
Yes.
Councilman Botts.
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Yes. Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes.
Council Vice President Lane.
Yes.
Yes.
Next on the docket, resolution authorizing motor vehicle tax abatements.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
Councilman Botts.
Yes.
Councilman Jerry Martello.
Yes.
Councilman Lucido.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes.
Council Vice President Lane.
Yes.
Council President Lane.
Yes.
Next, tax interest waiver approvals.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Next, tax interest waiver denials.
Motion approved as denied.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right, next is the Claims Committee. Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. We met and we resolved 6 claims, aggregate total under $35,000.
Okay, thank you. That's for informational purposes only, no action needed. Public hearings. Anybody from the public would like to speak on anything? Are you sure? You've been here all night? You don't have nothing to say? Come on, step up.
Just on anything, I'm going to speak pretty much on what I said before. We had a little bit of private conversation here during the break. I sat in the boardroom of ITT in New York when Harold Dean came in. It's a boardroom that the table goes longer in this room. They had to bring it in by... He had all of his lawyers there, and we were involved in a very legal type of conversation. He stood up and looked at his lawyers. He said, "Listen, you son of a bees, I'm paying you how we can do it, not to hear from you how not we can do it." So I've never forgotten that. I was a young man at the time, fortunate to be in that meeting. But the thing is that we're faced with these kinds of things, and again, somebody else brought it open about you table it, it can go on forever. It's already going on forever. That's the problem. Once you let a thing go so long, you force people to choose sides, and when they choose sides, then you have a war. And basically, behind the scenes, that's probably what we have right now. So once that's done, then nobody's satisfied. The police union's not satisfied, council's not satisfied, the administration's not satisfied, those that bring the suits aren't satisfied, even if they walk off with some money into the still of the night. In the meantime, we have spent, I said millions, I guess it's more like hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees. We got men that have walked off with a lifetime pension that we will be paying probably for, at life expectancy, maybe 20, 30 years. We lose their payment for their health care when they reach 65, but that's minor in comparison to the money that we're going to pay to men that each of you, or at least some of you at least, would say, if you took off your political clothes, that they do not deserve it for what they did to this city and what they put this city through. The police department was in turmoil for 2 years, maybe even longer than that. And I'll just add one thing. Somebody said, who I met the other day, and it's a prominent member of what's going on here, so I won't mention any names. And they said, well, the police department has always been political. Well, I've been in other cities and states, and I can tell you that is partially true. What overcomes it, though, is leadership. We have exercised, I don't care who gets the blame, we have not exercised leadership. So what you have is people that are allowed to choose up sides and argue amongst themselves rather than having a team approach to whatever the problem is, and that's where we ended up. It's all called leadership, and we have not had leadership in this city for so long, it's pathetic. And what happens, I see a divided council here. All of these 4-4 votes are meaningless to a taxpayer or somebody who's a student of what goes on in city government. So all it tells me is exactly what I've been saying. These things have fostered so long that you give people time to talk, control each other, and end up with people choosing sides, and therefore you end up to where we are today. I think I know, Mr. President, you want to end up on a joyous season, and so do I, but it leaves us with a anybody that's a student of this, it has to leave you with a pretty poor taste in your mouth. Because we look for departments in this city, as I hope everybody is, to do the best that they can for their job. And one other question, when the same person mentioned that, and I said, well, one of the reasons I've come up with in a long history, if I may remind you, I had police department at Boston University that reported to me. They carried guns. They were trained by the Boston police. I had a police department at Barnard College in New York, so I know a little bit about the mentality and how it works. But I'll tell you, if you have a strong leader, a lot of that stuff goes away. But when you think of it, why you don't have the same camaraderie, it's not rocket science, as you say you have in the fire department. They're sitting together, they're cooking together, they're sleeping together, and, well, hopefully not together, excuse me. If I was in a court of law, I'd say, may I rephrase that question, Your Honor, or that comment. But the patrol, they're out there all by themselves. They're single operators. This is what you have to understand. They're out there patrolling the city all by themselves. So, in effect, they don't have that buddy system going for me. So, therefore, you're bound to get a little bit more of, shall I say, interplay amongst the troops. But a good leader understands that. And when I'm talking leadership, I'm talking the one who has the job for public safety in this city, and that's the mayor. That's where it begins, and that's where it ends. The Omega, and you know the rest of it. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Anybody else want to give us season's greetings? Okay, nobody else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing section, move on to election of city officials. I don't think there is anybody. Are we electing anybody today? No? Any reports from city officers? Oh, Mr. Coop? Executive Communications?
Mr. President, a report on the hiring of special counsel, consultants, et cetera, pursuant to Charter Section 15.05 has been distributed to the members of the council. I have a copy here if anyone would like to take a look at it. I also have a request from police detective Donald Bucci requesting approval to be put on the pension roll effective at the end of the day on January 13th, 2016. At that point, Detective Bucci will have completed 26 years, 8 months, and 11 days of service. I've confirmed with Chief Winquist that this service qualifies Detective Bucci for a pension, and I recommend that the City Council approve that request.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to say I'm happy for Detective Bucci. I've known him a long time, but I think we're really going to miss him. He was a tremendous public servant and a guy that if we ever had a serious terrorism issue or anything, he's a guy that I'd want on my side for sure. So I wish him well, but we're certainly going to miss him as a public servant.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Side note, claims settled by the solicitor, Joseph Sicoscio, and attorneys Gilstein, Kinder, and Levine, LLP, for $1,500 and personal injury. Informational only, no action needed. Council President Communications.
Council President?
Yes.
While we're on attorney stuff, may I ask a question of the...
Yes, before we proceed, feel free to ask a question.
I guess this is directed to Mr. Rawson. Partridge, Snow, and Han on the redistricting plan in the Great Ward of Ward 6.
Yes.
They're sending us a lot of bills, and I haven't heard any movement. What's going on?
Well, right now, and again, not to speak too much because it is in litigation, the issue of redistricting and the counting of prisoners as part of the census is most likely going to be before the U.S. Supreme Court next spring for argument and decision. So next June, there could be the ultimate U.S. Supreme Court decision, so right now it's on hold. We have filed a motion for summary judgment with
We
the court.
filed a motion to dismiss, and that failed, right?
We did. In lieu of an answer, we filed a motion to dismiss. That was denied. But then the next step, you can file a motion for summary judgment, which basically says there's no real dispute of the facts, and we still are entitled to judgment. So we filed another dispositive motion. It's on hold now, so I trust those bills will actually level off because we are not going to hear probably till the end of the fiscal year as to what the U.S. By the way, this issue is in many states, not just ours, and so we're waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court. I think Judge Laguerre is going to defer. So we're probably going to have about a 6-month holding pattern on the case.
All right, so we'll probably won't see any more bills because there's
Nothing major, which is a good thing, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Council President Communications, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Happy holidays to all from the City Council. We may argue amongst each other, but deep down inside we like each other, sometimes. The one entity in this city I'd like to wish a very Merry Christmas is the attorneys that work for the City of Cranston. They had a windfall this year. They all must have had a great Christmas coming up because I'm sure that their stockings are full with taxpayer dollars. So Merry Christmas to the attorneys who work for the City of Cranston. Moving on to council member communications. Councilman Stichels is not here. Councilman Arquette.
Mine was addressed last meeting, so we don't need to rehash this. The administration addressed this last council meeting. Yeah, remove it.
Okay. Councilman Aceto.
Here. Yeah, just the administration, I know there've been some issues with dumping in Weston Cranston. I don't know, if we need to get together with the police or somebody, or put up some more no dumping signs, or put some cameras up. I mean, I've driven by the locations, and it's pretty severe. Actually, it's not just there, it's past Western Hills High School, too, on the right-hand side there, one of the streets, but dumping's just terrible.
We'll look into it and see what we can do.
Any other council member communications? Councilman Vecchio.
Thank you, Council President. Very quickly, through the chair to Director Coop, any updates on my Capuano Drive issue?
Yes, as you know, the director of the Community Development Office and I had a discussion about that, and about they are working with one of our assistant solicitors, Steve Marcella, into the prospect of trying to get the bank to turn that over to the city through the Community Development Office to use their community development block grant money to rehab the house and then put it on the market and sell it.
And will they honor our lien?
Well, the deal we would consider would be we would forego the liens if they would turn it over for $1. And that would be a way to get it cleaned up, occupied, back on the tax rolls and converted to a good use. Because at this point, the liens are so high that there's no way they're going to be able to sell it, and it'll just continue to sit there as a vacant property and a blight on the neighborhood. So we can really kill two birds with one stone if this works.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Botts.
Thank you, Council President. Through the chair to the administration, and it's just a thought, thinking about what happened last year. We had a nice warm December, and then January really turned for the worse. So I just hope it's being stressed to not only the Highway Department, but all the snowplow vendors that we use, just in case, because we're not going to meet again until the end of January, that first snow is so important to get right, because I think what happened last year is that first snow came down and it wasn't plowed curb to curb, and then it never melted. So I hope this year, it's stressed to them to get that first plow down correctly. And on another note, I'd like to thank Highway for getting on some potholes that were filled recently in the ward. So thank you.
Councilman Santa Maria.
Thank you, Council President. Director Coop, the bridge over near Nottaway Funeral Home near Catanzaro's that goes over the Pecasset has had those orange and white barriers up for probably a couple of years now. Can we get an update on what's going on there? Plus, you've got that issue, and then you've got the ongoing National Grid issue. I don't know if they're drilling for oil or something over there, but over by Catanzaro's, which causes major traffic. But I'm just wondering, is the bridge safe? What's going on? Is there bridge work going on? Are they putting sidewalks there? Can we find out? The bridge, that's Park Avenue. Park at Dyer. Going east. The National Grid work. And then when you've got funerals going out there, it's a massive traffic jam. So basically, my concern is the bridge.
I'll look into both of them.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Councilman Aceto.
Yes, Director Coop, just a quick question. You get a copy of the docket ahead of time, right?
Yes, I do.
All right, and then did you write mine down too, about we're going to look into it? I didn't see you write it down like writing everything else down.
That was already on the docket, so yes. It's only the new ones I have to write down.
Okay. Councilman Paplaskas.
Through the chair to Director Coop. Can you write this down? Enterprise Street, got a couple phone calls today, a couple potholes. Can have somebody check it out, please? And look into it?
Just don't tell me you have to call John Corso directly, because I won't do it.
Oh, don't do that, God forbid.
You haven't had that street paved yet? You had it in the street, no ward paved.
I put it on Pikesville, it's done already. Enterprise Street.
Councilman Farina.
Chris, don't call John Corso.
Director Coop, one more note for your giant book. Can you please just check on my boat trailer signs? I know no boat trailers are going to park there in the middle of the winter, but we passed it 3 months ago, and the woman's calling me that the signs aren't up, so. I know they're made, but no one knows where they go. I'd like her to, have a Merry Christmas and stop calling me.
Today, the 21st. 21st? So I get this thing today. I got it.
Oh, we wrote it down, it's nice. Somebody wrote it down and started.
All right. I can't believe that.
All right. Any other council communications? Hearing none. There's no old business this evening, and that good news. So introduction of new business. Will the city clerk please introduce the new business?
Proposed ordinance 12-1501, an amendment of Title 5.12 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Alcoholic Beverage Licenses for Alcohol Server Training Certification for Class A, to be referred to Safety Services for hearing on January 4th. Proposed ordinance 12-1502, an amendment of Chapter 10.32 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Stopping, Standing, and Parking on Specific Streets, Legion Way from Pontiac to Elsie, to be referred to Ordinance Committee for hearing on January 14th. Proposed ordinance 12-1503, ratifying the International Association of Firefighters Local Union 1363 collective bargaining agreement for fiscal years 2016 through 2019. Thank you. To be referred to Finance for hearing on January 14th. Resolution for temporary seasonal speed bumps on Laurel Hill Avenue from Argyle Street to Oxford Street. To be referred to ordinance for hearing on January 14th. Resolution for temporary seasonal speed bumps on Heather Street at intersection with Brown Street. To be referred to ordinance for hearing on January 14th. Resolution for traffic safety report on Gladstone Street School vicinity. To be referred to ordinance for hearing on January 14th. Tax incentive application for JMDH Real Estate of Cranston for Restaurant Depot. To be referred to finance for hearing on January 14th. National Grid and Verizon joint pole location request on Hosey Drive. To be referred to Public Works for hearing on January 4th. The following claims to be referred to the Claims Committee for hearing on January 4th. The following a property damage claim of Louis J. Emma from alleged incident on February 20th, 2013. Claim of Matthew Josephson from the Cranston Police Department. Property damage claim of Janice Moretti from alleged incident on November 18th, 2015. Property damage claim of Michelle Hutchinson from alleged incident on December 5th, 2015. Property damage claim of Everett Petrosinelli from alleged incident on December 8th, 2015.
Is there a motion to refer all matters as read by the city clerk?
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please take the roll.
Council Corino?
Quick.
Council Box?
Yes.
Council Jordan Arkell?
Yes.
Council Seal?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Miscellaneous business on the clerk's desk. Municipal Court 2015 schedule for approval. Is there a motion? Motion approved. Is there a second?
Can I ask a quick question on this before we go? This report, it says Monday, for instance, Monday, January 4th, 9 a.m., and it's got all 5 judges listed. But does that tell us what judge is on that day, or is this just...
Tells you what time the courts are meeting.
That's it? But it lists all the judges. I would think it would have a check mark there or something?
Through the chair, it may be undetermined at this point, so it could be any one of those
It just doesn't
listed.
make any sense. We'll table it.
Was there a second? Was there a second on this?
We need a second on the motion to approve. Thank you. By Councilman Paplakis.
All right. Any other discussion on this motion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Nobody's checked it off.
Council Corino?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is there any other miscellaneous business on the clerk's desk? There is none. Oh, good. The next city council meeting will be Monday, January the 25th, 2016. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Good night, folks.